We are doing our Movie Madness tournament on best animated films of all time. This was difficult to come up with lots of discussion, lots of disagreement, and it's 32. Now, first of all, some people have been asking me, why didn't we expand the field to 64? And there are two reasons why we didn't expand this year's tournament to 64 movies. First of all, we felt that it would have made the tournament just a little bit too long. We felt that the length of the tournament that we did last year was like the perfect length and the perfect amount, and we thought another round would just make it feel a little bit too long. Secondly, while there are some deserving films that are going to be left off this list of 32 that we're about to give you, we felt that if we made it 64, we suddenly would have been having about 20 to 25 movies that have no business being in the discussion of greatest animated film of all time. So even though it would have meant some films that get left out, maybe deserved to be in, could have been in, we felt it would have gone too much the other way as well. So that's why we kept it to 32. So listen. We're about to announce the 32 teams. The 32 films. I keep saying teams. I'm in my sports mindset. But for those of you who saw the video we put out yesterday announcing the tournament, I listed some films that did not make it. Well, after I got some really heated phone calls from AMC Movie News team members and a lot of heated emails and a lot of whatever, we went back to the drawing board, looked at it all again, and we made some changes. So you might see one or two films pop up here that we said were not going to be in, but did end up making it in. So now, this Friday, we will have our first round. The first round of this tournament will be on Friday. That's when we will reveal to you the seedings, which brackets, and our two brackets this year are the Lasseter bracket and the Miyazaki bracket. And we'll break down for you then and then give it to you in the links where you can go to vote on each matchup. But for now, we're just going to let you know and fill you in and announce the 32 films that have made it into our Movie Madness tournament. And here they are. And these are in no particular order, by the way. The first three, I'll just get all three of these out of the way. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. These are not just amazing animated films. There are arguments to be made that this might be amongst the greatest trilogies of all time. Every single one of them is a masterpiece. Toy Story 3, if you look at its resume, one of only 3 films, animated films in history that actually got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Award. And like the first one's a classic. Some people think that the second one's even better. Second one is one of only like a handful of films on Rotten Tomatoes with wide release that actually holds a perfect 100%. And then Toy Story 3, which some people think is the best of the series. So the first 3 films that we're announcing that get in are the Toy Story series. The next film that we're announcing, Iron Giant, arguably Vin Diesel's greatest work. It is, and Brad Bird. It was the film that introduced us to director Brad Bird. This holds such a special place in so many people's hearts. Moving on, the next one, WALL-E. The first 15, 20 minutes of this movie reintroduced us to the idea that you could tell beautiful story without any dialogue. And this movie is just so magical. I remember Time Magazine saying that Time Magazine called WALL-E one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time, not just animated. It's a masterpiece. So WALL-E makes it into our tournament. Next up, Grave of the Fireflies. This movie, and I know there's going to be a lot of you out there who have not seen this film, and I encourage you, if you're going to vote in our Madness tournament, even if you're not, go get it and watch it. It is one of the most gut-wrenchingly emotional, dramatic animated films. Probably, I'll call it this. It is the most emotional, gut-wrenching animated film I've ever seen.
If you like to actually feel and cry when you see movies, this will do it.
Oh, it's like no other animated film you've ever seen. Next up, the aforementioned Beauty and the Beast, one of the only other, it was the first animated film in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, now being remade, had big stage play, all that kind of stuff. One of my all-time favorites. Next up, 101 Dalmatians makes it into the list. All-time, one of the greatest animated villains of all time in Cruella de Vil. Absolutely deserves to be on this list. Let's keep going. The next film up, Dumbo. Recently in the news, Tim Burton looks like he's going to be doing a live action thing. But honestly, look it up. One of the greatest, one of the best reviewed animated films of all time. So skillfully made. It's emotional. It's heartwarming. It's sad. Like you were talking about when we were talking about that scene in it that just gets you every time. It absolutely deserves to be on this spot. Number 8, 9, 10. I can't remember. I lost count. The next one up. Wreck-It Ralph. This is a movie that just caught so many people by surprise so pleasantly. A lot of people very angry when it did not win Best Animated Picture at the Academy Awards. Wreck-It Ralph gets in. Next up, the classic film Akira. No tournament like this can exist without Akira in there. It's such an influential
Akira! Yeah.
Such an influential film overall too. Still a lot of people's favorite film of all time. So Akira makes it into our 32. Next up we have another Pixar film, Ratatouille. Maybe one of my top 2 or 3 favorite Pixar films. So funny, so endearing. It's just really great. And for foodies like me, it's probably one of your favorites. Next up, the classic Snow White. Why this young woman has 7 strange men in her bedroom, I don't know. I'm not here to judge. But this is magic storytelling. This is the kind of stuff that every generation has their kids growing up watching it. And that's for good reason. Snow White makes it into the tournament. Next up, this is one of the films that was not going to be in, but after a lot of moving and shaking, you get back in. How to Train Your Dragon makes it in. Once again, I think it's like a 96% film on Rotten Tomatoes, one of the most highly decorated, critically rated animated films of all time. How to Train Your Dragon makes it into our list of 32. Next up, speaking of Tim Burton, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Just as far as, it's so crazy about how this film became, which only I think made about $8 million at the box office when it first came out, is now kind of more than cult classic status, almost classic status. Yeah. And it is crazy how old this film is now. But like generations are now watching this film. So influential. Nightmare Before Christmas makes it on. Next up, the Miyazaki classic Spirited Away. 2002's Academy Award, I believe it was 2002 Academy Award winning film for Best Animated Film. Spirited Away. Many people call it the greatest animated film of all time for many, many good reasons.
If you haven't seen it, that's the one you should watch tonight. Like the other ones might make you cry, but this one is incredible and beautiful and surreal, and it's one of Miyazaki's like masterpieces.
Right, and I'm going to hit pause here just for a second to say, like last year's tournament, we hope that as we do this tournament, that there will be a bunch of films on here that you haven't seen, and hopefully this tournament will introduce you to a bunch of them that you can run out and check out. Now, I also want to pause here since we're about halfway through to say, some people are asking me, what's the criteria for getting a film on this list? And the criteria is this. Number one, subjective quality, that hopefully it's a film that we all think is really, really awesome, right? Number two, industry influence in that, how did the industry respond to this film? Did it win awards from the industry? Did it influence the industry? Things like that. 3, cultural influence. Did we see it make an impact on the culture as a whole? And number 4, success. Was it able to achieve some sort of success? And I'm also going to say this too. We didn't want this list to be all Pixar films. We didn't want it to be all stop motion. We didn't want it to be all Asian films. We wanted that all other things being equal, quality first, but all other things being equal, we wanted to see it mixed up a little bit too. So these are all the different criteria we looked at when putting this list together. With that being said, let's move on to the next film. And the next film up, we just talked about it last week, I think one of my favorites of all time, Secret of Nimh. There's Nicodemus. It's a movie about a little family of field mice, and it is one of the darker, more intense animated films you're ever going to see. Secret of Nimh, another one that I'm sure a lot of you guys haven't seen yet. Run out and grab it. I keep forgetting these are out of order. The next up, talking about great storytelling without dialogue, the Pixar film Up. If you were not crying in the first 8 minutes of Up, you simply have no soul.
You are not human.
Just one of the most moving pieces, like segments of filmmaking that I think I've ever seen. And overall, the film is just so delightful, so great. I believe this is the third film, 3 out of 3, that was actually an animated film nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and well-deserved. Next up, The Jungle Book. Another film that almost didn't make it in, but talking about classic characters like Baloo and Monkey, the Panther.
I want to be like you, shooey-dooey-dooey.
King
You want
Louie.
to walk like you.
King Louie.
Tell you. Come on, man. That movie's amazing.
And there's a reason why a movie like this gets remade over and over. We got 2 live action versions on the way at this point, one by Jon Favreau and one by Andy Serkis. And there's a reason for that. So one of the great classics, Jungle Book, makes it onto the list. Next up, a lot of people's favorites of all time, Finding Nemo. This movie just caught so many, and the success it has. We got a Nemo 2 coming out, which I think is called Finding Dory. Finding Dory is coming out. So Finding Nemo, another Pixar entrant, makes it onto the list. Next up, Little Mermaid. Sure, a film you're very well versed with.
Yep, absolutely.
With a daughter at home.
You have a tired look about you. You're like, I've seen it 400 times.
I'm just glad she switched to Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Ariel singing after a while can get on your nerves.
But as far as musical animated films go, one of the more catchy, memorable, like who doesn't know Under the Sea? I mean, there's a reason these types of things endure. Little Mermaid makes it onto the list. Next up, Howl's Moving Castle. Another one that I just got to go. If you haven't seen this, go watch tonight.
So
we got 10 films for you to go watch tonight.
You don't need to sleep.
So Howl's Moving Castle is the next up on our list. Moving on, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more films to go. Here we go. Next up, Brad Bird gets another film on here, The Incredibles. Best film not to have a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, they should have just called it the Fantastic Four because that's what it was. It was like they actually made a good Fantastic Four movie. That's the Incredibles right there.
I in all the years of doing movie blogging and podcasting, things like that, I don't know that I've heard of a film from fans more demanding a sequel over the years than Incredibles.
And they just announced the Incredibles 2 like in 2016, right?
Or 17 or something like that.
So happy to hear about it.
But it's coming at any rate. So finally, Incredibles makes it onto the list. Next up, the classic film Pinocchio. It's crazy when I actually found out how many people in today's movie generation have not watched Pinocchio.
Wow.
And it's not just a silly wooden boy with a nose and Jiminy Cricket and everything's fun. And it's got elements of darkness, heavier themes. It's brilliant storytelling. Pinocchio makes it onto our list. Next up, another stop motion classic, Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit. I remember going to see this film and was stunned how good it is. And you know what? One of the things we took into consideration too, making these lists, as we went through, what did other online sites have to say about the greatest of all time? And it's really surprising how many of these other people who made these lists have like Wallace and Gromit in like their top 20 of all time. If you haven't seen Wallace and Gromit, A Curse of the Were-Rabbit, treat yourself.
Make sure you go get a cup of tea as well. And you'll know that they all talk like this. Their mouths are very expressive. Gromit.
Next up, also from Pixar, another film that got in at the last minute, Monsters, Inc. It's so well done. I even really like the sequel. It was clearly a step down from the original, but I quite enjoyed the sequel as well. The Goodman and the Crystal. Even though we don't see them on screen together, their voice chemistry is so great. Yeah. One of the best pairings in animation. So Monsters, Inc. makes it onto the list. Next one up, there are going to be some people not happy with this, but there's no arguing it. Frozen. Frozen makes it on. When you sit back and look at the resume of Frozen, we talked about success. It is the number one, the most successful animated film of all time. Industry influence. It won the BAFTA Award for Best Animation. It won the Annie Award for Best Animation. It won the Academy Award for Best Nomination. We talk about cultural influence. Go out on Halloween or go to Disneyland. You're going to see 7,000 little girls dressed as Anna and whatever her sister's name is. You're going to see them wearing those dresses. It has influenced an entire generation of kids. Huge success, industry recognition. I know this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Kids won't stop singing the songs.
Yeah. What? You think it's going to rub people the wrong way?
I think, it's funny because when I was announcing that this thing was coming, I got a lot of emails from people who said, Frozen better not be on that. Yeah, Frozen better not be on. But the fact of the matter is, like when you look at the resume of this movie, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge I'm just biased against it if you're going to try and make an argument that doesn't.
And also 10 years from now, you won't hear that argument. It's just because it's like, Frozen, I'm sick of it because everyone's singing those songs. That builds up. 10 years from now, people are like, have you seen Frozen? It's a masterpiece.
Well, 2 and 3 will probably be out by then. So people will be annoyed with 2 and 3 at that point.
I am very curious to see how Frozen does in this tournament. I'm very curious to see how the fans vote it. But then again, a lot of that will have to do with how these
Frozen 3, it's no Frozen. That's what people are.
Exactly.
Go back and watch Frozen. That's the real one. That's 10 years from now. You don't know anything. Frozen number 1 was the one.
Frozen. Okay.
I can't believe they ruined it.
Next up, another one you're going to have to run out and see tonight, Princess Mononoke. Just brilliant, beautiful, intense. It brings all that sort of flavor that you've come to expect from these films. Princess Mononoke, a lot of people think his best. A lot of people think his best. So go out and check out.
It's Princess a hard one because Miyazaki is such a brilliant master. It's really the best is like Shavings of Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. It's just, there's so many.
Yeah. All right. So now we get the last 4, starting with, how could we do this whole thing without this one? Bambi. Bambi makes it in, total classic, endures for generations. There's a reason everybody knows the name and always will, forever and always, amen. Bambi makes it into the tournament. Next up, with only 3 left, no surprise here, The Lion King. Just from a perspective of catchy music, wonderfully voice acted, terrific villain, great heroes, memorable performances. This movie has it all, completely timeless. You know, one of the genius things about this movie was that it doesn't interact with the human world whatsoever. So you can watch this movie in 1940. It wasn't around yet, but I'm saying you can watch this movie in 1940. You can watch this movie in 2040, you know, and it'll still feel completely timeless because of the way they did it. So Lion King gets into the tournament. 2 ones left. I'm really glad Mark Ellis isn't here because Fantasia, talking about industry influence. Find me 5 animators today that don't tell you they were completely influenced by Fantasia.
Ellis doesn't like Fantasia?
Ellis hates Fantasia. Totally.
Ellis, I'm disappointed in you.
But not just how it influenced animation as a whole. Fantasia actually influenced an entire generation of music video makers too. When you really watch the documentaries on it, how Fantasia was put together, totally influential, still has a huge impact today, Fantasia. And the last film, remember, these are in no particular order, but the last film to get in the number 32 position here, Aladdin.
Oh, thank God. I've been waiting for
I was waiting. There's two on my list.
My films weren't in there.
Yeah, there's 2 in there. And I'm like, there's too many.
where's Aladdin? Where's Aladdin?
Yeah.
And for the adults in here, Heavy Metal, Paprika, those are ones I would have picked. But, you know, you can't have them all.
But, I mean, I don't think we're going to find anybody that's going to argue that Aladdin doesn't deserve to be on this. And, you know, some people would say, oh, you guys just all put him in there because Robin Williams. Nah, this is Aladdin. I mean, this is classic. And I think the reaction Ashley just had is probably the reaction thousands of people watching this thing.
I was having it right now. I'm like, that better be Aladdin in there.
So, but you know, look, we realize too, so I'm just going to run down these really quick. You don't have to do the graphics on this, Jonathan, but the Toy Story films, Iron Giant, WALL-E, Grave of the Fireflies, Beauty and the Beast, 101 Dalmatians, Dumbo, Wreck-It Ralph, Akira, Ratatouille, Snow White, How to Train Your Dragon, Nightmare Before Christmas, Spirited Away, The Secret of Nimh, Up, The Jungle Book, Finding Nemo, Little Mermaid, Howl's Moving Castle, The Incredibles, Pinocchio, Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Monsters Inc., Frozen, Princess Mononoke, Bambi, The Lion King, Fantasia, and Aladdin. Look, we know there are films, Transformers, there are films that have been left off this list that deserve to be in the conversation, and that's the tough thing you have when you're trying to put these lists together. No matter what our lists look like, some people are going to disagree, and that's the best thing about.
But you know what? That's
tournaments.
amazing is. There's literally like 20 films that I could think of off the top of my head that aren't on that list, but this is just 32 movies.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, how come Totoro? But there's already like 4
I know, my neighbor
Miyazaki's.
Totoro, right?
No, but I'm just saying, if there's so many,
a lot
it's
in
like,
there,
I can't even, there's not one Ralph Bakshi film on this list, which, hey, look, I'm a different person, so I would have put that on there, but this is like animated films that are across the board globally.
It's a solid list. Yes. What I would have had Transformers 1986? Absolutely. Lady and the Tramp's another one
Lady
too.
and the Tramp wasn't there.
But this is a solid set. And there are a bunch of movies on there that I actually haven't seen that just hearing you talk about them makes me want to.
Or actually want to see them again.
Yeah.
I could watch all 32 of these movies again.
Yeah, watch Snip's face. I've never seen Spirited Away.
But now you get to experience it.
When I hear about guys like this, right? Who there's amazing movie like this.
Guys like Harloff, that's what he's trying to say.
There's this amazing movie that they haven't seen. I feel jealous.
Yeah, I know you get to
you get to have that first experience out that we never get to have again. I'm so jealous that you get to do that. It's kind of like when I meet first disgust when I meet somebody who hasn't seen Star Wars, but then jealous that they get to experience it the first time.
What planet are you from?
So hey guys, our first round when we will be announcing the seedings. Remember, there are 2 brackets, the Lasseter bracket, the Miyazaki bracket. Each will have a number 1 seed through number 16 seed. We'll announce that seeding on Friday, as well as tell you how to vote on the first round, so you guys can get in and you guys will determine, just like last year, the outcome of this tournament. Hop into the comments section, start talking about the films that got left out, talk about the films that maybe don't deserve to be on this list, whatever. This is what it's all about, guys, so we can have these debates and everything, so we're really thrilled about it.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.